we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the nuances that DocuSign offers for ways for you to make working in DocuSign more efficient and more effective. So if you'll pull up your DocuSign 201, this just gives you an idea of some of the things we're going to talk about. And the first thing on our list is just a reminder to sync those command opportunities to DocuSign, right? We kind of covered that in the first section, but as a review, in your details screen of your opportunity, these details that have synced next to them are data that went to DocuSign. So if you change any of this, you want to resync that transaction so DocuSign is always accurate, okay? And as a reminder, if you change something in DocuSign, it's never going to come back to command. So I would, as best practice, recommend that if any of these details are going to be edited, do it in command and sync it to DocuSign so that it's always updated in both places, okay? All right, so let's go back into our DocuSign room. You can play in the room you're in, or if you want to go into another room, or if you just want to watch on screen, you can do that. I'm in a DocuSign room where I have a whole lot of documents. First of all, as we mentioned, I can look at these documents in the grid view, or I can switch over to a list view, and I've got lots of documents. It becomes very cumbersome, or can become very cumbersome, because as we mentioned, we're always adding documents. When we add documents, they're always going into the Room Docs folder. When you send those documents for signatures, the signed version is coming back into your Room Docs folder. The same folder. Yeah. So it can make it kind of confusing and complicated, jumbled, right? Make it hard to find things. A couple of things that I would recommend doing to help you stay organized with them is to take advantage of the folders. If you've used, those who have used .loop, folders in DocuSign correspond to folders in the loop. You can organize your documents that way. So you'll see in this particular DocuSign room, I have my Room Docs folder, which is by default where things are going to go. I've also made a new one, and I named it First Offer. All righty. The reason I did that is because in my example, and I'm just opening and closing that folder. In my example, this is a buyer who has written an offer on 13209 Haystack Road. I sent the documents to the buyer, they signed them, we sent them to the listing agent, they were declined. They did not get under contract. My buyer signed those documents. I am responsible for keeping copies and records of those documents. I can't just get rid of their signed document, right? I have to keep it. But I don't want to keep it in that Room Docs folder because I'm going to be writing an offer on another property. And I don't want them to get all jumbled together, and because it's just going to build more and more documents in that Room Docs folder. And eventually I'm going to have 20 or 30 documents I have to sift through. Why would I want to do that? So I can create a folder by using the actions key field, add folder, and you name your folder. So in this case, this is a buyer. I would name the folder, just for logic purposes, I would name the folder the property address to keep it tracked, right? But you can name it whatever you want. You might name it First Offer. You might name it whatever, something. Yes, John.
This is slightly unrelated, but in command, after we submit all of our documents and the opportunity is done and over with, how long does command keep electronic copies of those documents?
Command, to my knowledge,
persist until it gets destroyed?
Yes, okay. as far as I know. I mean, by law, we're required to hold them for a certain number of years.
Yeah. I know we as individuals are, but I was wondering if command just keeps an indefinite record, if we just stay with Keller Williams, it's theoretically just a good electronic backup.
It's a very good, command is a good electronic backup for you. DocuSign is a good electronic backup for you. And I would highly recommend that you create your own backup as well, which might be Dropbox. It might be some other cloud storage. It might be your hard drive. It might be a thumb drive. I don't care what it is. But if command were down, if DocuSign were down and you had to get a document, you know you have it somewhere else. Or if you were, unfortunately, people switch brokerages sometimes. So if you were to leave Keller Williams, you will no longer have access to
command.
command or those documents. So you want to have them, right?
No.
You would no longer have Dropbox,
You
DocuSign?
would probably still have access to DocuSign.
You would have to reactivate your subscription with your own credentials.
Possibly.
and-
I would not count on having them.
Right.
I would not personally, I just would not. I would put it in my regular habit, my routine. If I've got documents somewhere, I'm gonna save them somewhere else. That's
Is there
just,
an option
just
to
do that.
download all these,
Like a mass archive button, mass export.
You can export from the opportunity. For each opportunity, you can export them. And if you're doing that to save them somewhere, that's the smart way to do it, because you want to save them in an organized manner according to that property. So I would probably download them in from command for 123 Main Street and save them wherever I'm saving them for 123 Main
better
Street.
from command than
You could do DocuSign too, but you remember you've got all the unsigned documents in there, you have partially signed documents.
how
You
do
know.
you?
Well, we can talk about that another time. Did you have another question or question? So, yeah.
Okay, I think that I'm in command now, but how do I get back to DocuSign?
You should still have the DocuSign window open. If you closed it,
I must have closed it.
okay, go into the opportunity,
Yeah,
into the documents,
document.
and then on the far right, go to transaction.
Transaction.
Yep, and that'll open that same the DocuSign room that's connected to that opportunity. Okay, sure. All right, so we're gonna name our folder, whatever. And in my case, as you see, I named it First Offer - 13209 Haystack. And I have 19 documents in there. The second,
You had 19 documents for an offer.
no, I'm playing.
I'm doing something wrong.
No, you're not. No, I would be doing something wrong if I had 19 documents to offer. No, I'm just playing. The other reason why that's helpful to create those folders is, and let's go back into command to look at this. In our documents, we were talking about how we're going to attach files from DocuSign, right? In this case, I'm sorry, let me get to the other the opportunity that is connected to the room that we're talking about. So bear with me 1 second. I'm going to just go into a different opportunity real quick. All right, so my opportunity I'm in is buyer DocuSign class, buyer DocuSign class. So I know that's the room attached to that opportunity. We're good? I'm going to go into the documents, and I have my under contract folder open. Perhaps there's a document in DocuSign that's fully signed that I'm ready to add to command for compliance to review. So let's just, for sake of example, say that's the purchase contract. So I want to add my purchase contract from DocuSign. Remember our working folder? Now I have two options. Where is the document that I want to set to add to command? Is it in that default room docs folder, or is it in the folder that I created to keep them separate? So I select which folder it's in. And then when I go to download it, to move it over, again, command's looking at that DocuSign room, and it is identifying what documents are there and giving me the options to drag them in. So think about that for just a second. Brando, you pointed out that I have 19 documents in one folder and I have 8 in another. So that's 27 documents. If those were 27 signed documents in one folder, then I'm going to have to sift through 27 documents here to find the one I want to add to this placeholder. Waste of time. So once you start getting multiple documents in your room, would benefit from adding folders to keep them organized so you can more easily pull them over and be more efficient with it. Yeah.
I might have been looking away when you did this, but when you're in command and you're trying to take over the documents from the folder,
Yes,
how do you specify the specific folder that it's pulling from?
right up here,
Okay, good.
Yep.
Thanks.
working folder, for sure. Now, what other ways, this an example is a buyer opportunity where I might have multiple folders that are related to multiple properties, because I've written offers on 3 properties, none have been, number 3, we finally executed. So maybe I've created 3 folders, 1 for each property, right? And I put the appropriate documents in those folders. What would be a different reason why I might use folders?
Signed document versus.
That's a great one. Signed documents versus unsigned documents. Really good one. Executed
Addendums
documents.
versus your basic contract stuff.
Could be. And another one, you notice, those of you who have been using it, DocuSign, and have sent it for signatures, you'll notice that you get a certification back every time somebody signs.
Right.
That's a PDF. So I might have to sift through those.
You don't need it.
You don't need it. So you could move all of those to a certification folder. So they're all there, they're out there in the, you know, they're still in DocuSign, you still have them, but you don't have to sift through them every time you're looking in this folder.
Delete them out of the room.
I'm sorry?
Can you delete it?
Can you delete documents?
You have physically, yes. Or technically, I should say, technically, yes. I have the option right here.
How do you create a folder for those?
Okay, that's let's do that. So we're going to add a folder
Okay.
and we're going to name it certifications. So now I have 3 folders, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I have the option. I can grab it and place it in that folder if I want to. So now I have certification, the first one in there. Okay. Or I can select multiple ones and my little option up here to move it. My destination is a folder in the current room. Which folder? I want to move up to the certifications folder. I have 2 documents I'm moving to certifications, so I click move. And now in my certification folder, I've got those 3 certifications. So if I'm going to add to command, I probably, let's refresh this real quick so it knows I added a new folder. So now when I'm adding, I'm never going to choose certifications because I'm not ever going to add those into command. But I know that those documents are in there and I don't have to sift through them to find them, the ones I need. In answer to your question, Oscar,
Yes.
technically you have the option to delete documents. Best practice, I would have to tell you, I don't recommend deleting any documents.
Okay.
Instead, if you just want like a certification, you really probably won't need it, but I would not delete it. You could archive it instead.
Just
If you
put it
just
on different folder.
put it in a different
We never know.
folder, yeah, put it in a different folder or archive it. Certainly not a signed document. I don't think. Certainly not a signed document. Okay. Any questions on the use of folders? No? Okay. Another way you can help yourself stay organized is renaming documents. I believe this is helpful for a number of different reasons. Let's say you had 3 addenda on your contract, right? And you don't want to have to take the time to open up the document to see which one this is. Is this the first one, the second one, or the third one? You can simply rename your document a couple of different ways. I can either I can right click on that document and I have the rename option. Or if I wanted to open the document, remember our document actions little window up here? I have the option to rename it here. So I might rename this.
Because I wanted to match with command names or the commands names.
Oh, you wanted to match the command name?
Yeah.
You could, yeah, to make it easier to find, sure, sure. Somebody I was talking with about DocuSign the other day, what she was doing is she was renaming them with the word signed at the front. So when she is adding them, she quickly sees, I've got 3 signed documents, which one am I looking for? Kind of sorts them. So you could rename it to be alphabetical if you want. You could rename it to be numerical. Whatever works for you. You could even rename it, this is my signed version, but if it was the unsigned version, I could just rename it unsigned addendum. Something like that.
For all you, like, it requires both sides to sign, once it's both sides are signed, I don't know, it's fully executed.
Fully executed, yes, yeah. Or it could be buyer, it's my buyer signed addendum 1. I would take that out. Buyer signed addendum 1. And then the next one might be fully executed addendum 1 or something. Okay. So do you think that could be helpful to rename documents? So now I've got buyer signed addendum. So when I'm adding that to command, I can more easily find it. Okay. Any questions on organizing of the documents? Or comments or thoughts, or is that helpful? These little tips, something you can implement? Okay, good.
Tech roles.
That's a game changer.
Well, for me.
That's a game changer.
That's
If you weren't
the thing that
using
I
them,
was-
it's a game changer for sure. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
manually.
So let's talk about envelopes. When I'm in my same room and I just clicked on envelopes to see all the envelopes I've created for this room. You can see I have some that are completed and I have some that I avoided. Okay. This shows you why it's helpful to name your envelope at the beginning. When you put the documents in the envelope, remember we said that the name of the envelope defaults to please DocuSign. You can see I didn't change that at the time I created the envelope. And now how do I know which envelope relates to which? I don't. So I should say listing documents or first offer on whatever, 123 Main Street, or counter offer for your initials or something like that, right? That way I know. Because if I send multiple envelopes, if I have 2 or 3 envelopes that are still in waiting for others status, how do I know which ones are waiting and which ones are not? Okay. So that's always helpful to name the envelope. We talked about when we're adding documents to an envelope, we talked about how you want to, well, that's signed, that doesn't really help. I'm just putting a document in an envelope real quick. This is where I would name it. I left it at pre-DocuSign. I was lazy. I didn't change it. So now I don't know what's in there, but I would change it here. When we're adding recipients, pre-tagged roles, always use it when you can. If this had been a PDF, it's not going to let me pre-tag roles because it doesn't know who signs. So then I would add by email address. And then I have to do it manually. Okay. Has anybody ever sent an envelope with a lot of documents in it and they didn't like the order that they were placed in?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're sending a contract and other things is in the middle. Good. Let's show you how.
The first document.
I'll show. Yep. Okay. Good. We'll show you how you can fix that. I'm just going to pick random documents here that I have. I'm just going to add these from my room. So you see the order they're appearing here. I have my disclosure, another disclosure, an addendum, and I just put willy-nilly, right? If I wanted this one to appear first, I just change it here. So now when I add a recipient and I click next and I go through that list, the first one it's going to show them, this is the order it's going to show them in, and that's the order your customer will see them in. Okay. Has anybody had an experience where they've had to correct something after they sent it for signatures?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. There's a way that you can correct that. I'm going to just play with this for a second. Just to make this real quick, I'm just going to put myself in here. No, that's gonna confuse it. All right, so I'm gonna click next. You'll see that that certification is the one that I put on in the first, so that should be the first one we see in order, which it is. So that's displaying the documents in the order I had them in the envelope. I do my stuff, I send. Ignore that. I have an envelope here that's waiting for others. Now I realize, oh shoot, one of those documents was wrong or had wrong information on it, or my customer called me and said, change something. So you can correct the envelope while it's still in waiting for other status. So I'm going to look at this real quick. Oops, that's completed. I picked up the wrong one. Sorry, hang on. I've got a document in an envelope. The envelope is waiting for others. If I needed to correct something, I simply click correct. It's going to take me back into that envelope and I can make the corrections I need to make. Because it's waiting for others. Nobody's signed anything yet.
Oh.
If it has already been completed, I cannot correct
The
it.
problem that I had what happened is I put CC copy of somebody. As soon as he opened it, I cannot check it. Even if
You'd have to void it.
I have
The
to
answer
void it.
is voiding. If it's not in waiting for others, if it's not in that status, then you would have to void it.
Just CC copy, it didn't let me check anything.
You'd have to void it
Yeah.
because
Right.
it could be possible that one of 3 people has signed. You can't correct something after that person has
Yeah,
signed it, right? You have to void it and start all over again. So if in that case, I would, let's go back into my envelopes. Discard this real quick. So I have my completed envelope right here. If something was wrong, somebody signed it, and then we realized there was some wrong information that needs to be corrected. I don't have the envelope, the option anymore to correct it. I would just void it and have to start over again with a new envelope. So if recipient number 1 signed it, recipient number 2 opened it and said, ooh, there's something wrong on here that needs to be fixed, I cannot correct that in that same envelope. I just void that envelope and start a new one with the correct information, because number 1 has signed, so I can't change something after they've signed it. That's not legal, right? Is that making sense?
Yes.
Yes, Nancy, you okay?
Well, this is so complex to me.
Is it?
Yeah.
So maybe,
I guess I'm an old dog that doesn't like the truth.
well, not necessarily, because this stuff here is not commonly, it's probably not going to be real common for you to have to. So this is a little bit more of the in-depth thing that if you did have the scenario, that's when you'd call us and say, hey, how do I handle this?
So somebody messes up and then, so you've got it back now. You've got it back as assigned from party number 1.
You don't have it back.
Well, then party number 2 says there's a mistake on here. Okay, so how do you just select that one form? How do you?
So that's a good question. That's a really good question. So let's say you had 5 forms that went out to 2 people.
Right,
Person number 1 signed, but there's an error on one of those forms. That envelope is not complete until person number 2 signs it.
okay,
If person number 2 never signs it, then you don't have any of the documents signed yet.
right, okay.
So you would start a whole new envelope with all 5 documents with the correct information to go to both people.
Oh, so party number 1 has to re-sign it.
Party number 1 would have to re-sign it because the information's different,
Okay,
right? Yes,
so.
correct.
Just briefly then, show how you send that to a new envelope.
You would start over.
Show that to me again, please.
Okay. You could be in the documents section, screen.
Yeah.
You prefer the list view? Is that what makes more sense?
Yes, it
Doesn't matter? Okay. You would select these are signed, you would select your documents.
Okay.
You'd click the create envelope button. You would name your envelope. In this case, in our scenario, I might name it corrected listing documents,
Okay.
maybe, just again, to keep myself straight. My documents are here and I start over. I add my recipients using pre-tagged roles. I tell DocuSign who is who.
Okay.
I put in my subject and my message. I click next to view the documents, make sure everything looks good.
Okay.
So I review them and I scroll down and look at each one, make sure that the fields have been assigned correctly, and then I click send.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm glad you asked that question because we talked about how when you send documents for signatures, they come back signed, marked signed, right? It's only going to come back after everybody has signed it. So if person number one signed it, but number two didn't, you're not going to have a signed version.
Okay.
One more time, where did you go to open that up, the little signature things on there?
I put them in an envelope
Okay, you put them in an envelope.
and pre-tagged roles. I add recipients from pre-tagged roles. Alrighty, how are we doing? We want to keep going a little more with different things. The things we have left on this form, and you tell me if you want to learn anything. I don't want to waste people's time, but if you feel like this is something that would be helpful to you, tell me. You can split documents in DocuSign. So if the other agent sent you one document that has your contract, your HOA disclosure, your property disclosure, and the pre-approval that we don't need to see in command, you can split those up into multiple documents in DocuSign. And you could do that in command if you needed to. If you're using DocuSign and you're at that point, that's where they are, it's easy to split them up. So we can review that real quick. We could review in-person signing. If you are physically with somebody and you want them to sign electronically, but you want to be the host while they do it so they don't have to go into theirs, you can do that through DocuSign. You can add an authentication code. This one's very quick and easy to show you. I'm going to create an envelope again. I'm going to name my envelope. And when I add my recipients, remember, we're using pre-tagged roles. I'm just making it up here. And it adds my recipient. Under this little more button, I can add a private message to that recipient. I can also add an authentication access. So if you're working with somebody who's very concerned about security and privacy, and maybe they are afraid their email is going to get hacked and somebody's going to be able to access their documents and they want to be the only person to do that, you can add an access authentication where you make up a code and you provide that code to your customer. And when they get the email that says, Brando Yates has sent you documents to sign from DocuSign, enter authentication code to see them. They would enter that number you gave them and then they could access them.
And you would just send an email on that, or?
I would probably call them with that,
Oh, okay.
or maybe text, but yeah, I'd probably call them.
Yeah.
Or maybe tell them at the beginning, hey, when I send you electronic documents, I'm going to give the let's make a code right now. And every time I send you documents, you'll use the same code. Maybe it's something easy for them to remember. Last phone number or last 4 digits of their social or something. Yep. Do you have a question?
Trying to think this out. If I go to a listing appointment They sit down and we go through and they're like, yeah, I want to sign with you. Could you pull this up without internet access if you already have put in all their information ahead of time and have them sign it on your computer, and save it to your desktop, and then go back? Cause like in Sun City, like, they all want wet documents, but I wonder if they'd be okay if you just signed it all on the computer with them there.
You can have them sign it on the computer for sure. But I'm pretty sure you'd have to have internet to do that.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah.
I just thought maybe if you had the documents pre-filled and saved on your desktop, you could open them up and they could click and sign them. Oh, it needs internet to do that?
To click and sign, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice, that'll work.
I think because it only allows it when you're in DocuSign. But outside of DocuSign, I don't think it has.
Oh,
Because you still have to create the envelope.
Just trying
And
to
have them
think
in
of
an
a more efficient way
That's a
to
good
get
idea.
everything signed,
Yeah.
because I kept having to go back over to this lady's house. She didn't-
Well, if she has internet access, you could ask, if she has Wi-Fi, you can do.
Yeah, I guess
on her
you could do
Wi-Fi.
that.
Okay, so that's authentication code. The other thing on here was a private message. If I wanted to type a private message, it's basically like a sticky note that goes just to this one recipient. It's a private message to that recipient. So Oscar, if you were sending it to 2 people to sign, and then you had the third one, I think you said it was a son who wanted to just receive a copy,
Right.
you might want to send a private message just to the son. Or just to the parent, just to this private message option gives you the option to give a private message just to that one recipient, if you needed to do that. Just a little,
Why can't you?
I don't know. Hey, I sent this to your dad, please make sure he signs it. Right, I mean,
That's what I've been doing.
yeah,
Right
no, I know, I get it.
Two,
Yeah.
the two different, but, no, Becky is. very-
So those are 2 little quick things you can do.
Okay.
So anybody want to learn how to do the in-person signing? You want to review that? That's a little bit deeper, so you're gonna want to take notes, I think.
Yes.
And one thing I forgot to mention, at the bottom of your page, you've got a reference to answers.kw.com. This is a terrific resource for you when you have questions about how to do things in Command or DocuSign, okay? And I put asterisks next to, on the DocuSign 201 page, next to a few things where I highly recommend you get information from answers.kw.com for that split. In-person signing is one of them. So I'm going to demonstrate it here. I would recommend you use the instructions from answers.kw.com if you want
Is that
to use it.
answers.com, is that a live chat or is it just a glossary?
It's a glossary.
Okay.
It's a glossary that is updated regularly by KWRI, so it's always the most up to date, and they may have a chat button on there. Let me look real quick.
Yeah, there is, there's a support button.
Yeah, your support button. So this is similar to the support button that you would see inside Command. If you click the little question mark button in Command,
Oh, okay.
you do have a support option here.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
Yep.
Outlook has a YouTube page too, that goes over. They have like a YouTube video for everything.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Okay. All right, so let's talk about in-person signing. So when we're in DocuSign, we are in as you know, DocuSign Rooms, right? DocuSign Rooms is a manipulation of DocuSign that allows us to use DocuSign for real estate purposes. So they made some changes to DocuSign to make it easier for us to use for real estate purposes. But we still have access to the other side of DocuSign, which is called e-signature. And that's what we use for in-person signing. And that's why I mentioned that it gets a little more complicated because we have to kind of switch over.
Say it again.
So when you're in DocuSign,
Yeah.
you're in DocuSign Rooms. You created a room, right?
Right.
Okay. So we're gonna switch, we're gonna move to a different section of DocuSign in order to do in-person signing.
So it's gonna be directly signing directly to DocuSign.
It will be signing the DocuSign documents.
No,
It's-
I'm saying you have to, you're not gonna be in the room, you're gonna be.
You start in the room.
Okay.
You still start in the room. We're gonna start at the point where we have documents in an envelope.
Okay.
Okay?
Gotcha.
Yes, sir.
Hi.
Hi, Josh.
A late add to the class. Are you good? Are you
Yes.
good with the recording and everything?
I believe so.
Okay, cool.
I assume it's
got
recording.
one back out, so I just, before I left, I wanted to make sure you didn't have any snafus I needed to say before I left, so.
So-
Thanks for checking.
Yes.
So let's start at the point where we already have documents in an envelope. And if you don't have that and that you can follow along with on your laptop, just follow along with the screen, okay? So we know how we get documents in an envelope. This is also, all right, so I'm gonna change my envelope name here to, I'm just gonna say testing in person, just so we can keep it all straight, okay? I'm going to want to be very specific about my email subject because that's how I'm going to find this envelope from the other side of DocuSign. So I might type here, in person signing, 123 Main Street. Okay? Because I'm not emailing this to my customer. I'm gonna catch it before that happens so they can sign in person. I want to be able to identify it. Alrighty? At this point, I'm gonna save this envelope and close it.
So you only gonna add yourselves, right?
Actually, who do I
You don't
add?
have to. See things, we don't have, I don't have anybody here.
Yeah, so they were.
I do only have myself.
But right now, I don't have anybody.
I have myself as the customer.
Okay, so I.
Oh, right.
This is the customer.
So that's no box, that's.
This is a customer.
So should I use the tag or should I use room participants or?
Pre-tagged rules. Okay, we're good? I'm gonna save this envelope that I've made, save and close. We're just creating the envelope because we have to switch over to the other side of DocuSign to do the in-person signing. And I do that, you save and close it, so you should be in this envelope screen. You see, here's my envelope in a draft, testing in person. And to switch over to the other section of DocuSign, I'm gonna click on my name or my initials or your face or whatever appears up there as your identifier. And I'm going to switch to e-signature. Okay.
I have to speak, I have both. Okay.
You're gonna recognize this because you signed into DocuSign directly, and this is the screen where it brings you.
Right.
All right, I'm going to manage. So I'm clicking manage at the top. And it's going to show me my envelopes. I need to find the subject of my envelope, which is why I was real careful with naming my envelope that way. Okay. So I'm gonna find the envelope, in-person signing. Oh, that was completed. Sorry, hang on one second. Let me get back to what I did. Let's see. I'm sorry. I missed a step. I need to go to my drafts. Remember, I left the envelope in draft.
Yeah, I couldn't find it.
That's why I couldn't find it either.
Okay.
There's my subject. In-person signing 123 Main Street offer. I want to continue working with that envelope. So I click continue. I have my recipient. I named it customer just so we could keep straight who it was. And now under my needs to sign option, I have an in-person signer.
I don't have that option.
Are you in the drafted envelope? All right, how about after we do this demonstration, we'll walk through it in person on that. So I'm gonna click in-person signer. And now DocuSign wants to know who is the host. This is sort of a security thing, right? The customer is going to be signing, but who's hosting it? That would be you as the agent. Whose device is going to be used? Yours. So I'll just default that to my information. And then I'm going to click next.
So sorry, I'm sorry. So the host is gonna be the agent. right?
The agent, because it's your device. You're hosting an in-person signing option for the customer. They're going to be using your device. Whose device is the host? We good so far? So I'm going to click next. And this is all going to look familiar, right? If we needed to edit something, maybe we see that we forgot to give the customer a signature block. So I could edit it here. I could still do my editing like I would on the other side. And then when I'm ready, I'm going to click send. And then all I do is follow the prompts. I messed this up. Hang on one second. Hang on one second. I'm going to correct this because I should not have added myself.
Different, the other box.
The other one, but I'm still the host. I'm sorry. This was good. We're good. We're good.
Yeah, because it was a different email.
We're good.
Just different email, yeah.
We're good.
I just put agent and myself, Oscar, but customer.
All right. So I've clicked next from my envelope. I'm going to move to the next thing or send. Yes, you click send. It's going to give you instructions. You simply follow the prompts. You as the agent are doing this, so you can pass control of the session to your customer, ask them to sign, help them sign, get a copy of the finished document, take control of the signing session, and then you'll complete it. So I'm going to start that. I'm the host. Buff Bishop is the host. Please pass control of the session to customer. Customer was the name I put in as my customer, right? Continue. So now customer has control of my device. And customer sees the same thing they normally would if they were doing it through their own email. Continue. Start. Sign. Adopt and sign.
You just
Sign.
do it from your computer.
You're just doing it from your computer. Exactly. They're finished. They click finish. Would you, customer, like to receive a copy of these documents? Yes, I would. Okay, let's enter your email address here. Enter email address. Or just continue if they don't. And now, customer, please pass control back to the agent. Customer clicks continue, hands you the device. And now you have signed documents.
That's good to know, because I had a guy who was just so computer illiterate. I was going back and forth, back and forth. I never did it this way though.
Yeah.
I ended up going there and he pulled it up on his computer and I showed him what to do.
Yeah,
Now knowing to do this, I can
From
take
your
my
own.
computer over and just walk him through it. That's so much simpler.
now remember, I'm in the e-signature side still, right? So I'm going to want to move back to my rooms side of DocuSign. And I'm going to go back into that room I've been working on. I don't remember which one it was, but I'm
Do you switch profiles or?
nope, don't switch profile, switch to rooms. Click the top right, your initials or your picture, or whatever the little circle says in the very top right, and go to rooms. You go back in and find your room, and you know now that signed document is going to be here in my room. And there's the certification even for testing in person. That was the name of it. Okay. Good.
Yeah, that's good.
You can see it's several steps and it doesn't follow, in my personal opinion, a logical process. So
Can we just?
pull the answers.kw.com article, follow it page by page, do it once or twice with yourself, husband and wife, play with it, pretend, role play it, and then you'll be comfortable with it. Okay. The last thing I was wondering if you want to hear about is static templates. So this is something that's a little bit different with .loop, because Nancy, in .loop, you could create a template of like the listing agreement and use that template every time for information that stays the same every listing you write. It automatically has your name on it, it automatically has your commission rate, it already automatically has certain things that are not going to change from one to the next. DocuSign has the ability to do that if you were to create a template of that document. Do you think, if you think through the way that your business works, do you think it would be helpful to have a template of a document that provides, say, if it would save you some time from having to retype certain things every single document you complete?
Would that be the same as also customizing a form that's already in there? And that, for example, the property disclosure on the back, some agents, Susie does this, and I haven't done it, but I think it's great. On the back page of the property disclosure, she adds lines, electric.
Oh,
age,
to get information from them, so
for
they
the
tell
four-
the
for
age
the
of,
4 points,
so the
age of AC,
the customer
age
completes
of
those.
water heater, age of
Interesting.
roof, and then it's right there, and she gets them to do it if they know.
That is really interesting.
Okay, so, on the 4 point, this information that we always come up against with insurance on old electric boxes and old plumbing and roofs and all of that. She adds that back page of the 4th page of the property disclosure. She adds some narrative in there on those lines. Age of roof, blank, age of,
So the
they
customer,
complete
seller
that.
completes it.
So then it's real cut and dried when the buyer comes and starts looking at the property disclosure. Well, how old is this? Well, how old is that? And it's
So
real
you
cut and
have
dried.
to scroll over, find it.
Yeah, and some of that information isn't in the property disclosure. It
Right.
doesn't have anything about, well, it has polybutylate modeling,
Prices.
has the roof been resurfaced, but it doesn't have dates.
Mhm.
Because that's what the insurance company, that's gonna be your red flag. If the roof is 17 years old, it's a red flag. Anyway, so that's,
That is
So-
something, a template, you can create a template to overlay those forms so that every time you add that template to, for example, a property disclosure, it's
Yeah.
going to have that information on it. Yes, that would be an example of how you
Okay.
could do that. Another example would be a listing agreement. If you always have a 6% commission and you always have, there are certain things, owner occupied, if you
permits, closed.
certain things on a form that are always going to be the same, that you're finding you're retyping every single time, you can create a template that will make those fields appear for you. So that's something to think about. I'll be honest with you, I have mixed feelings on that because it takes a little bit of time to create that template.
But it doesn't
How much
take
time is
long.
it going to save you?
Doesn't take
It,
long.
it could be that there are forms that it would save you a lot of time on.
Like that one, I like that.
In that scenario, yeah, that's a great
And
example.
since you already attached the MLS. so
It
anybody
gives that
who shows the
information.
house has the answers to those questions already.
Yep. So you could create a template for that purpose, for sure. Do we want to take the time to go through that, or you can get the information off of answers.kw.com if you feel like that's something you'd be interested in doing? That's fine? Okay. Or we could demonstrate it. Okay. Splitting docs, that's one more thing I'm gonna show you real quick, just because it's a quick one. I'll find a big document here, hopefully. Let's see. All right. So I have a document here that's probably 12 or 13 pages. And let's just pretend that this is 4 documents rolled into one, or 2 documents rolled into one, right? It's one big PDF, but there are 2 documents in there and I want to split them out because I need them separate. When I'm looking at the document, another one of my little document actions is to split. It's showing me each page, each of those 13 pages.
Oh,
The first document I want to have, let's say pages 1 through 5 are a contract. So I'm going to make my first document contract.
what? I'm sorry, what?
Open up a multi-page
Oh, you
document,
have to-
Yeah.
Oh,
and then the little icon on the right. You got it? Split. And I can either type in my little box the pages 1 through 5 to create that new one, or I can select them myself. Now, when I typed 1 through 5, it automatically highlighted them because I typed it here. But if I weren't typing it, I could just choose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And then I'm going to add a new document. My new document is HOA disclosure. HOA disclosure is page number 6 and 7. And if I'm not sure what it is, you see how when I hover over it, it magnifies it so I can confirm that's the one I need.
okay.
Yep.
Got it.
And then the remainder is, let's say, remaining docs, just for speed here. We're going to say these are the remaining docs. That's what I'm titling it. And it's going to be the rest, which is 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, so I have 3, I'm creating 3 documents. I click save. Guess what happens? I have 3 documents, 3 new documents, and I have the original document still here. This is the original document I was splitting from because it keeps the original document. The original document I was splitting is still here, all 13 pages. The 3 new documents I made are here, here, and here. Now I can do with those what I need.
So it's not going to delete
Nope.
your original, it's making a copy, basically,
Yep.
of it.
And that's why it is useful to have different folders.
That helps different folders because now I might move these 3 into the signed documents folder, right? Mhm.
Also,
And it makes it easier when I want to pull those into command to put them in their individual placeholders. I split it up. Okay, cool. All right, I've taken a lot of your time today, so I appreciate your sticking with
We
me.
need it,
we have taken a lot of your time.
No.
Thank you so much.
Do you, so you got something out of it? It was helpful?
Absolutely.
Do you feel, is it, everybody get at least one little nugget? Okay,
Three things.
3 nuggets, awesome.
Yeah.
Good. It was worth your time. Do you have any outstanding questions, lingering questions? No,
I'm just
I'm listening.
still seeing my old broker